and welcome to the Moonshine Jesus Show. We're glad you have joined us for this episode. Well, we will be talking about Netflix' newest sci-fi thriller, The Last House. And I should warn you, there will be spoilers. If you're wanting to watch the show spoiler-free, pause right here, come back and catch us after you've seen the Netflix movie. But more importantly, I'm joined by my good old buddy Caleb. How are you doing today, Caleb?
Hey, I'm doing great. How are you doing today, Mark?
I am doing especially well. I don't know if I should be, being that we're talking about this show. It's going to be interesting to get into and see what you thought, what I thought. This was not. I don't think this one's such a sure thing. Frequently, when we come into this, I'm like, oh, we're going to both be really high on this one. I'm a little curious. I can't wait to end up finding out where you're coming from on this. Before we get to that part, though, I want to remind everybody that we are supported by the Center for Progressive Christianity. It is the perfect place for all of your progressive Christian needs. Encourage you to go there and check them out at progressivechristianity.org. We're also sponsored by the Progressive Christian Alliance, which is a diverse, inclusive community reclaiming faith through justice, compassion, radical welcome. And we're also sponsored by the Christian Left, where following Jesus means standing up for the poor, the oppressed, and the truth, no matter how unpopular it gets. Caleb, we need adult beverages. I am certain for this one. I'm curious, what did you end up going with?
Okay, so in the last house, people are stuck in their house and they've
Indeed.
got what they've got. And
Yeah.
so I thought, okay, if this were me, what would I have? I'm going to go to my liquor cabinet and see what the first thing I would drink would be. And I decided on some double oaked Woodford Reserve. And
Ooh,
so
lovely.
I didn't make a cocktail. I just pulled it right off my liquor shelf and into my glass. So I'm drinking
Absolutely
double
love
oaked
that.
Woodford. How about you?
I absolutely love that. I decided to make up my own drink. I'm calling it
Okay.
the Monster at the Door. Uh,
Ooh.
Frankly, it's not much more than a whiskey sour that was sweetened with honey, and then I floated a little red wine right on top to make it a little more spooky. The red wine has already started like bleeding
Yeah.
in, so it's
Uh-huh.
still going to taste delicious. I don't have any doubt about it. So, cheers to you, sir.
Cheers, man.
That's pretty good. All right. We're going to take a quick drop here. We'll come back on the other side and geek out a little bit about this show.
Moonshine Jesus, moonshine Jesus, moonshine Jesus, moonshine Jesus, won't you shine a light?
Welcome back to the Moonshine Jesus Show. We're entering our Geek Out section where we kind of talk about the movie itself for a while. And then after the segment, we get into the theology and politics, but we have to geek out a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, come on.
Right? Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
It's
That's
important.
the fun. That's the fun part. So, in the last house, a family of four is suddenly sealed inside their home with no way out and must work together to survive against both their dwindling resources and the mysterious looming threat that is keeping them trapped, while recognizing that the whole world is also trapped inside their homes. So, Mark,
Yeah.
let's picture ourselves in the writing room.
Okay.
Okay, not every horror movie needs to have a commentary, right? Jordan Peele's stuff has been very successful in this. Get Out, Us, Nope, great commentary, race, inequality, all. Let me ask you a question, Mark. You're in the writing room. What's the goal here with this movie? Is it making a commentary, and if so, is it making a successful commentary?
I think it is, and I hope that we're going to get a little more into one of the reasons why in our theological political segment. I think it is making a commentary about when we get isolated for long periods of time and how we choose to react to it and what it says about us, who
Mhm.
our character is, and where we end up going with it. So yeah, I think it does. I think the pitch was probably a little more high-headed than what the actual execution ended up being, because I don't have any doubt that this probably was stemmed out of someone reflecting on their time locked up in their house with COVID kind of
Yeah.
things. So yeah, I think there was it necessary? We'll see. I don't know.
Well, I mean, I guess this is my question. It does kind of feel like a COVID movie, right? And
Oh, it definitely
I
does.
I think maybe my reaction might be different if I was watching it during COVID instead of,
Yeah.
5 years later, if I were
Right.
like isolated in my house or something like that. But
Yeah.
I think I was watching this movie and I'm like, okay, I can feel there are a lot of things going on here. We got kind of a family drama. We've got maybe a commentary on environmentalism. Hard to tell. Uh,
Maybe.
and we've got a commentary on kindness and
Mm,
mercy,
right.
understanding the other.
Hmm.
Do you think? I feel like maybe the execution wasn't great. It's got, I think, somewhere in the neighborhood of a 25% fresh
Oh,
rating.
does it really? I didn't check that out. Wow. I
So
didn't think it would be that bad.
and I think the audience score is right around there too. So it
Wow.
was not popular amongst audiences or critics. But I'm kind of getting the feeling that you might have had a little bit more favorable of a reaction to the show than I
Uh,
did. So
I would have
tell me about it.
I would have expected it to have more around a 55 to almost 60
Yeah,
rating. I think it started off great. I think the premise was good. I think
yeah,
the reality of, wait a minute, wow, this is taking a lot longer than I thought. Oh my gosh, their neighbors are dying. This is like a
yeah.
big, like, that part felt like real kind of situational thriller horror kind of, and I thought they handled it pretty well. There was a point at which it felt like it started changing and it became more. Yeah, there were almost three movies. There was the beginning, which I
Yeah.
thought worked really well. There was the survival part, which felt a little gimmicky and a little bit ridiculous and a little bit, I don't buy what's going. Some of this you're not explaining very well, and I'm not sure that I'm buying into it without a better explanation. And then the ending was what the ending was, and
Yeah.
it felt like it did a hard turn, and it didn't really earn the hard turn as far as I was concerned. So it wasn't put together well. It was a great concept. I feel like it could have paid off. It felt, like I said, for me, it felt like three different movies. The first one being pretty good, the middle one being a little odd, and I don't know what's going on, and the third one felt like it was just not deserved. Like you didn't earn to get that ending. So
I,
I don't know. What'd you think?
I agree with you on the disjointedness of it. That
Hmm.
it did. I mean, we had a pretty significant jump in time, like a
Yeah,
5 year jump in time, all of a
yeah.
sudden. But
We
I
had to
will,
recast the kids. It was a big enough
yeah,
jump. They had to, you know.
right. And one of the kids, there were three different actors for, and
Oh
I
yeah,
guess because of the
yeah.
narration. But I will say, I need to give credit where credit is due. I said around 25%, but it's not 25%. It's 27% fresh rating and a
Wow.
28% audience score. Okay,
Wow.
so a
Unreal.
little higher than
Wow.
I thought, but not 55%.
Yeah, no. That
Um,
part does surprise me a little bit.
so let me ask you two questions here,
Yeah,
Mark, about
yeah.
what I'm curious if it might have worked better if a couple of these adjustments were made. Um, would would this have worked better if it had come out 5 years ago, 6 years ago during COVID? And would it have worked better if we didn't jump 5 years in the
Mm.
middle of it?
I don't think it would have worked better if it came out 5 years ago. I think there was still too much trauma going on for a lot of folks,
Yeah,
and this would have felt way too like familiar. I
yeah,
think that it would have caused lots of folks to even maybe say, I'm not going to watch this.
Mhm.
The 5-year jump, maybe. I think maybe if we did 1-year jumps, and you wouldn't even have to give us much on each one
Oh
year,
yeah.
just kind of show us the progression. Show, like, pick something. I don't know what, something out the window that one kid is sort of fixated on, like my favorite bike or whatever. And
Yeah.
every 1 year, you see a bunch of things, but one thing you always see is that kid looking at the window and looking at the bike and watching the deterioration of the bike, the nature taking over the bike. I think that might have helped us kind of walk down the road with them and have a little
Yeah.
more empathy of what was going on. It needed something like that, I think. Well, I mean, don't you think?
Yeah, you should have written it. I think that would have
If these
been
people would only pay me.
because I mean it was a substantial jump, and all of a
Mhm.
sudden we had radically different family
Yeah,
dynamics without a lot
we
of
absolutely did.
explanation. And I get it, but I think you're right. I think if we'd seen some progression, a lot of shows have done that successfully, kind of
Yeah.
showed progression. I
Mhm.
think The Last of Us, that's a good example of a
There you
show
go.
that showed increments to show how the disjointedness between the two main characters happened, and I
Mhm.
think that allowed us to buy into that. And this just didn't do the work
It really
there.
didn't.
Okay, so I've got some questions about some things I didn't understand, Mark.
Oh,
And
you're already going to try to still make me look stupid questions during your segment,
well,
man. What a move! What
you
a
know what?
move!
It's
for it.
it's halfway through the year. I need to correct here. So I don't know if I'll hit any of
That's
these, but
fine.
I've
Go
got
for it.
several things I didn't understand that I want to ask you about. Okay,
Okay.
so here's
All
the
right.
first
I'm
one.
not sure I'm going to be able to help much on this one.
So we find out that the water monsters are like sea monsters, perhaps of the legendary variety,
Mhm.
krakens and things like that. Why did the sea monsters all of a sudden come out?
Okay, that's one of my questions. Well done.
Really? Is it?
Yeah, that's one of my questions.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
My question was, why did the creatures wait so long to reveal any intelligence, and why didn't they communicate long before this?
Yeah.
Um,
Yours was more eloquent than mine. So
it was still
yeah.
kind of the same question, though. It really was. It was still the same
Yeah.
question. That I think that was one. I honestly believe that there's a couple of very weak parts of the.
Yeah.
I'd call it the argument that this movie is making. There's that is one of the weak points. They just show up. Maybe they thought that would make it a little more scary. Is that
Yeah.
it's not a specific thing that we know of that is causing them to show up, and it just seems random, but maybe it wasn't random. I just disagree. I think we needed, I don't know, in the background from time to time, while they're having family conversations, the television's running and the newscasters talking about
Yeah.
the overburdening of the sea, of flotillas, where the garbage flotillas, those kinds of things. Something like that. It's just in the background. It doesn't have to be in your face, but something that gives a reason why these three creatures finally are like, all right, we've had it with these human things. Um, so yeah, I kind of feel like they missed the ball on that one, man. I don't think they gave us any reason to understand why this happened when it happened. Do you?
I think you're exactly right. That's exactly what I was thinking. Is like if we had some newscasters that gave us some
Mhm.
kind of context or something, that would be great. If they were going to do this, it almost would have worked better, I think, if we had never learned what was outside. If we had
Right.
never gotten
It was
any of
never
that.
if it was never more than a shadow that the young girl saw. Like we never saw the monsters, right?
Yeah, or if we saw them but without explanation as to like
Where they're
kind of the
from, or
halfway explanation didn't really do it. I
I
don't
think
think.
I think yeah, I think they had to at least. It felt like an alien invasion movie.
Yeah.
And so if they didn't explain something, most of us would have walked away saying, "Well,
And
I know they didn't
aliens,
tell us, but it was probably aliens." And I don't
probably
think
aliens.
I think they very much at some. I think my guess is that this went through quite a bit of production. early production before filming, where some of the themes kept shifting. Was it about COVID? Oh, well, is it? I don't know. Maybe it's about the environment. I don't know. Maybe
Maybe
it's
it's
about
aliens.
empathy. Maybe it's about about violence, and maybe I don't know. I mean, there's just so many things. I think it shifted around, and I think there was a point at which it was going to be at least part about the environment, and that's
Yeah.
what made it important that they grounded these creatures on Earth
Yeah.
somewhere. But
I mean,
it didn't.
yeah,
It
I
didn't
kind
work. It didn't
I
work.
kind of got that feeling, like maybe that's what they were gonna do, but then we did never get that. Okay, question number 2 here: how did they control the rain? And if they could control the rain again, why now?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think, they're mythical sea creatures that turned out to be real. They probably have magic. I don't know.
Magic, right?
The elemental animals that are connected to the sea and have this power. The part I want to know is how in the world did seawater repair glass and prevent wood from being broken?
Okay, so that's my next question. in my line of questioning here is how does this rain seal the houses? Because it is like they test it, they're like, oh, it's seawater, it's salt water, right? It's
Yeah, but they show the water filling in the cracks in the glass. And
right.
the glass
Yes,
coming
they
back
do.
together.
Yes, and then if it seals all that, why doesn't it seal the chimney?
Well, the chimney was too big of a hole. I don't know.
It's
Or maybe
seawater can only seal small holes. Is
maybe it is that they're being monitored, and they were just sealing the places that might have allowed for escape, and they knew they were monitoring enough to know that the hole was not big enough.
Yeah.
John says it was magical seawater properties. You should have known.
I think you're right,
Caleb.
John. I think you're right, John.
I mean, there is some magic in the sea, as far as I'm concerned, man. So, it heals wounds a lot better than a lot of things. So maybe it can heal glass. I don't know.
Salt water. Let's put some salt in it. Okay. Next question. Something I want to know. Okay, people other than the one neighbor had to be outside, right? So, like, why couldn't anyone who was outside, like, stop the sea monsters or do something? Or why didn't we see anybody else? Why we just see that one neighbor?
Yeah, we saw the one neighbor that was out, and maybe it was that in that area, like, again, maybe they really were monitoring all the houses, and they got as many people in houses before they sealed it completely up. And she tried to go in the house but was warned off. Don't come in. Don't come in. So maybe she was just the only one in that area who managed to get all the information before getting sealed into a house. I mean, I'll buy that slightly. What I won't buy is that by the end of the movie, there is this sort of assumption that this is the last family, because this is the last house.
Yeah.
In the entire world, there wasn't another family smart enough to figure out how to provide for themselves and survive this long.
Well, I mean, we also had to have
that part. That was the one that I had the hardest time, like, going, oh, well, yeah, I guess.
I guess we heard somebody on the radio or whatever, but I mean, there had to be people in, like, public places too, like, right? Like, somebody was at a Costco. There were people at Costco, right? Like, there.
Right, but at some point, they took what they bought at Costco and went home, and when the door shut, they were stuck.
I guess so.
Yeah, I mean, it's perfectly logical.
We're out of time, but I've got one more question.
Okay.
That I'm gonna throw just one more in. One thing I want to know: why is it that after 5 years, one act of kindness caused them to just pack it up and go back and disappear?
Yeah, that you got another one of my questions there.
Yeah, see, I'm glad I snuck that in. I knew we didn't have time for it, but
the creatures clearly had the ability to let the family out. So why trap them for 5 years in the first place? Was the point just to kill them? If so, why now?
Yeah.
I think this is one of the ones where I do fall back on. The reason why is because they're bad writers. It's just bad. Mark. It's bad storytelling, man. You can't do that and not provide more explanation of why these creatures decided to wait that long, and then I mean, there's also the question of, why did they lock them up to starve them to death? If they were going to kill them, they clearly had the ability to kill them if they wanted to.
Yeah.
So why was it torturing
true.
them to starve to death rather than just getting? If the point was to get rid of
Yeah.
humanity, at least originally, then why not just do it?
That's a good point. And I guess I kind of thought like they were coming in to eat them. And then I'm like,
But
no,
they
they're not,
weren't.
because there were people who were just like floating around. And okay,
Yeah.
there are some problems with this with the movie. Why it
Indeed.
has a 27% fresh rating, but there are also some theological and political themes in
Absolutely.
the movie.
Sure.
So why don't we end this segment
Yeah.
rather than picking it apart further and get into the theology and politics?
Welcome back. You're joining us for our theopolitical segment. So my first question is really, I kind of feel like where I'm going on this question, I wish that maybe it would have been more of the impetus of the movie. It was there. It was definitely present, but I feel like it might have been a stronger movie. Let me just go ahead and ask the question. Movie starts by asking, how do we survive, essentially? But by the end, it almost seems to ask a different question, something more like, what kind of people are we going to become while we're surviving? Why is that such an important question in general? And they did sort of make it important, but I don't think that they did everything with it they could have. Why is that such an important question?
I mean, I think that's the question that we ask as human beings all the time is like, as we're surviving this life and everything that comes at us, who is it that we are? Because
Mm-hmm.
ultimately, we can't control what happens to us. All we can do is try to control how we respond to what happens to us. And I
Yeah.
think this is something that like we often misunderstand in Christian theology, especially like 21st century American Christianity. There's a lot of,
Mm-hmm.
oh, if I do things the right way, God's going to reward me. I mean, we've got whole segments of Christianity built around this notion that our actions will cause God to act in certain ways. That's just
Mm-hmm.
not the way it works. You know, all we can do is control how it is that we respond to situations, even when
Right.
situations are bad. And I do think the one promise that we get in scripture is that God promises to be with us through whatever it is that we're going through. Never a
Mm-hmm.
promise that it's going to be easy, never a promise that even though things are going to get better, but that God's going to be with us through it all. So I think the reason it's important is because as we're surviving this life, that's a question we have to answer all the time is how are we going to react to this? Who are we going to be? What do you think?
I think I agree with the reasons that you named. I also think that there's this sort of subtle similarity to Christianity in that a lot of Christianity is about how do we survive? Like, what rules do I have to follow to not go to hell? What things do I have to do? Whereas I think what Jesus was trying to teach us is what kind of people are we becoming? And I think that we don't put enough emphasis on that. On it's fine to believe things, but I want to know what those beliefs create in you. What kind of person do you become because of those beliefs, and how do you interact with other people? And do you help people? Do you hurt people? So I think that becomes a really important difference. And Christianity, for a very long time, has been getting it very wrong. And I think partly because just putting people in a position where they're just trying to figure out how to survive makes them very controllable, and people in power kind of love that, right?
Mhm.
So, in a rare move for Hollywood, this movie ultimately, I'm not sure it's where it started, but it ultimately argues that compassion accomplishes what force can't. Uh, which one is more real between the two of accomplishing things, compassion or force? And why does that even matter?
Yeah. I think that's the message of Jesus. And that was the thing that I appreciated about the movie. I thought that like it was executed poorly, which made me sad. But like the general message, I'm like, yeah, here they're responding with force, and all that is happening is more force, more violence. And when they respond with compassion, compassion is returned. And I think that that is the message of Christianity. And I liked that because I think when you're thinking about how it is that Jesus interacted with the Roman Empire, well, the Roman Empire responded through violence and conquest, and the peace that they were creating was peace that was created through violence and conquest. But Jesus was talking about peace through the presence of justice, peace through compassion, peace through kindness. And so I think that is the gospel message that yeah, it's if you put compassion out into the world, compassion returns to you. I think that's the fundamental nature of Christianity, even if a lot of Christians don't realize that, calling empathy a sin or mercy a sin. Well, no, they're not sinful. They're the heart of the gospel. What do you think, Mark? Well, and how do you think they handled it?
I do think it's remarkable that a Hollywood show decided to try to make that the power move at the end. It is the part that I was talking about earlier where I felt like they didn't earn it. They didn't get to it in a fair way. And that's a shame because I do think it's remarkable and unusual that was the message that a Hollywood movie was making. I think it might be why it gets such a low rating, because people wanted a more forceful payoff and a grand escape that somehow beat the bad guy, the monster, or the whatever. So yes, compassion. I think we need a lot more movies that show that, because it is the reality. When we use, I say this all the time, when we use violence to overcome violence, all we're teaching is that violence is a solution, but it's not. It's just a feedback loop where we just violence begets violence begets violence. Compassion does the exact opposite. It moves everybody forward together. So I think it's important. I wish so badly that they would have done a better job of showing the family learning that was important somehow, and that it was not like a in the moment decision, but a reality that they had learned in some way that pushed them towards that. So do you think this movie is really about monsters, or might it be, I don't know, maybe about what isolation does to people? You know, do crises reveal our character, or do they sort of create a different character in us? Is it possible that it's more about what isolation does to us? And then that question is, so does and if it is the message that the crisis reveals our character, or that it creates a new, differing character in us? I don't know.
I think maybe it's a both and. I do think it's about. I don't think it's about monsters. I don't think that was ever really the point of it, and I think it's about isolation. I think looking at a family and interpersonal relationships in particular, and I think crises do both reveal something about us, about how it is that we actually are, who it is that we are. And I think it's true that when we're going through a crisis, it can transform us as well, for better or for worse, that it reveals who we are, how we react. And then as we continue to go through that shapes us and forms us in new ways, just as all of our life experiences determine who we are and how we interact with the world. We are who we are because of what we've been through. And so I think that crises do that for us. And I think that's certainly what we see in the movie, where we see this family struggle, try to decide who it is that they are, who they're going to be as a family, how they're going to survive as a family, and then who they're going to be on the other side. And a lot of us have to go through that at some point in our lives as well. What do you think?
Oh, I think crisis is the main thing that causes us to change. Very few people, if things are going smoothly, change. I don't think that that's necessarily good. I just think it's true of human nature. So I think I'm with you. It does both. It reveals who we are initially, and then as we choose how we respond to it, it begins to shape and reshape us as we move forward. I want to squeeze in one more question, because I think that this could have been the thing that would have saved the whole movie, would have allowed it to be about everything we've talked about, including environmentalism, including being isolated. I think that the real villain in this movie is scarcity. If you think
Mm.
about what happens with environmentalism, that has a lot to do with the scarcity. When you think about
Uh-huh.
being locked up, it has to do a lot with scarcity. How is the myth of scarcity used to manipulate the public today?
Oh, it's used all the time. I mean, this is
Right.
this is one of the things that we see when totalitarian governments are on the rise is there's not enough. There's not enough money, there aren't enough jobs, there's not enough
Mhm.
food, there's not enough health care, and the person who's causing there to be not enough is this person, and
That the
it's
other.
always the other, right? The marginalized person, often a
Mhm.
foreigner or someone who's somehow different. And so the scarcity mindset is one that inspires fear, right? And
Yep.
when you are afraid, you make poor decisions or make no decisions, right? And
Yeah.
I think when we're talking about politics, though, the way we see fear is fear of the other and uh, excluding other people. I think, though, we also see this a lot in churches. You get
Mhm.
churches who are terrified. They're terrified that churches are declining. They're terrified of change. And they're often terrified of how they're going to spend money.
Yeah.
And this is something I hear in almost every church is that churches feel like there's not enough money, there aren't enough resources. And
100%.
so
Yeah.
what that causes them to do, instead of like leaning into their mission and ministry, instead they hoard and
Yeah.
then they operate in fear. And
Yeah.
that doesn't do anything good for
It
ministry.
doesn't. And I would add to that, not only do they hoard, they also shift the focus of who they are and what they're going to do. If they feel like everything is scarce and they don't have enough, all of a sudden the purpose of the church isn't about living out the life that Jesus taught us about and creating the kingdom of God here on earth. It is about getting more members so that we can have more money so that it's not so scarce. And that is one of the worst things a church can ever do, is to make gaining membership the focus. I mean, there is nothing biblical about that in any way, and it distracts us from what our larger purpose should be. Listen, I have more questions. We could have gone on and on, I am sure. That's one of the interesting things about this movie. For all of its faults, it certainly brought up some interesting issues. But if we keep going, we won't get to the make me look stupid segment. You've already stolen so many questions. I need to get to it as quickly as possible so that I at least have something left to ask you. So before you say another word, I'm going to take a quick drop and we'll get to the last segment after this brief message.
Welcome back to the Moonshine Jesus Show. We're entering our final segment, the Make Me Look Stupid segment, our favorite segment. We appreciate you hanging around so that we can try to make each other look stupid by asking each other questions or trying to make a prediction or asking something we don't know about. And Mark, here is my question for you today. Let's imagine that there is a world where The Last House gets a sequel.
Oh, God.
uh, what do you think would happen in the sequel? What would you like to see in The Last House Part 2?
Don't do that to the world, man. All right, so we finished the show with the family on the boat, sailing away, trying to decide where they're going to go, what they're going to do. I don't know, man. I hope they go and they found some. They find the others that are surviving, and they gather again, and they go back into creating civilization, and they've learned their lessons. This isolation and what they've done to the environment. They've learned their lessons, and it's it's a uplifting story of trying to live side by side with these new creatures, understand them, and create a better world. I don't know. That's no one will go watch that, but that's my answer. What's your answer?
Oh, I had an answer, but as you were talking, I think I've decided something different.
Okay, good.
I want to see. I want the Last House Part 2. They're in the water, and all of a sudden you see Kevin Costner, and it turns out to be a sequel to
The Waterworld.
Yeah,
It's the impetus for Waterworld.
there we go.
They see him on his boat, and they hire their boats together, and they start creating.
yeah, Waterworld, man.
That's a much better answer. That is a much better answer. I like that one. My question is simply a question of I don't understand. 5 years, right? 5 years. Yet they still had enough functioning infrastructure for parts of the movie to work, like electricity and lighting and if people aren't running the plants, how do you get 5 years of infrastructure still working?
Well,
did they explain that and I missed it?
The electricity didn't work all that long, and because it worked for
That was like a couple years.
I thought it was a few weeks while they were like watching. Because I thought like before the time jump, it was a few weeks. And I mean, maybe this is one of the other problems here.
Yeah.
I don't know. But because they were watching Air Force One and then it all died. And I kind of assumed that like the infrastructure worked until things like flooded and stuff. And then although like did people get sealed in every building or was it just their houses? Because like could we have had employees there that could have
I don't know. I think it was implied that it was just houses.
Just houses?
Houses? I think so. So I just did a quick search.
Okay. Is it
day one?
Where could it be?
Day one, yeah. Actually, it was a bad question. Day one, cell service goes out, Wi-Fi goes out, most communications, electricity, running water, ventilation continues to function normally, and it's not until 5 years later that we find out they don't have it. So it might have gone on a little longer than it should have. I don't know. It felt to me like I remember distinctly at some point going, how do they still have electricity? That's not how the electric infrastructure works, I don't think.
I felt like right before they lost it, I was having a similar feeling like, this is like
it was a little
lot.
too long.
Yeah. A little bit too long. But I thought if they had kept that going for 5 years, like, no. no.
I mean, so long story short, it had its issues, but it tried to do some good things.
It did. And I mean, all that said, I did have fun watching it. Like I didn't
That's true. I never thought, man, I can't wait for this to be over.
Right. I like enjoyed watching it. I thought that, and I mean, it wasn't because of the actors.
Oh no. I thought they all were really pretty good considering what they had been given to work with.
Right. It was clearly a story issue here. And I cared about the characters. I didn't want it to be over necessarily, but I also remember thinking, well, this isn't a great movie, but like it's fine. It's enjoyable, and sometimes those kind of movies are okay too.
Yeah, that's right.
So Mark, you had a suggestion for next week that is in a similar vein.
Yeah, it's sort of similar. So, I mean, I think it'd be fun to kind of put these back to back. Movies coming out, I think it's a J.J. Abrams, at least he's involved in it. It's called The End of Oak Street. It's hitting the theaters. And instead of being trapped in a house, the family is trapped in a neighborhood. And at least initially, there's a scary monster in the edges that you don't know what. But they're not
in a
just
world where
in a-
people
in a
can
wor-
leave
in a
their
world.
homes, but are stuck in their
But are still
neighborhoods.
So yeah, they try to leave, and they get to the end of this is all in the previews. They get to the end of the street and realize that their neighborhood has been lifted somewhere, and there's an edge that drops off. And so this is a family trapped in community and not a family trapped in isolation, also trying to overcome some kind of monster. So I think it might be fun to compare the two.
Okay, and it's got Anne Hathaway. It's got
Yeah.
Ewan McGregor. You know, how bad could it be?
Yeah.
You know?
I agree. They tend to pick pretty good movies, so they should be interesting.
And if not, we can talk about individualism versus community, and it'll be great. it'll be a lot of fun. And J.J. Abrams, man,
He usually hits. He usually hits.
It usually hits, and if not, it'll be exciting. It'll be fun to watch along the way.
At the very least, it'll be engaging.
Well, this was fun. I had a
It
good
was.
time talking about Last House, man.
I did too.
I think this was a good pick.
They all can't be winners, and a matter of fact, it'd be boring if they were.
Yeah, I know. Sometimes it's kind of fun to talk about movies like this too. You know,
Absolutely.
And we've had several really good ones in a row. So
it was time.
It was time. It was time. So thanks for picking this, Mark, and thanks to all of you for watching. We appreciate you all being here every week. We have a great time starting off our week with drinks and pop culture and talking about theology and politics. So thanks for joining us, and we can't wait to see you next time on the Moonshine Jesus Show.
Moonshine